All right. So nutrition consultation. So the coaching PowerPoint. So when we're talking about the idea of like what a nutritionist is, right? It's really funny. It's super ironic that we're having this conversation because I actually broke this down for my girlfriend this weekend. Like she was just curious about how certifications work and this and that. And I was like, fun fact, in the eyes of the government, there's no such thing as a nutritionist. And what I mean by that is like there's no governing body ahead of like nutritionists. Like there's a governing body of personal trainers, right? Like the NCCA determines like what you need to be like a certified personal trainer. And if you don't meet those requirements, you're not one, you know? So then if you go and do something and somebody gets hurt and you call yourself a personal trainer, and then that person's like, they said they're a personal trainer and I got hurt. And then like they can't prove that they actually are, or that they are an expert on fitness, they're held liable, you know, as well they definitely should be. But nutritionists, there's no real like governing body for that. There's no standardized sort of like group out there. And so there's no standard definition for what a nutritionist is, right? Because like, what if you are a vegan specialist consultation? Or what if you are all about like keto? Or what if you're all about the carnivore diet, you know? And stuff like that, right? There's no like, you know, consensus on that until you get very high up. So you make like a huge leap into like using food for medical treatment. And that's where suddenly we are moving into the medical world, not the health world. And I know that those things seem like they shouldn't be separate, but they are. And now you either have a doctor or a dietitian. And that is something that the government, so they have rules, dietitians have rules to follow. Doctors obviously have rules to follow. Nutritionists, though, because that's not necessarily like something that is governed by like a specific group of people, not so much. So if that's the case, we do have limitations on what we're allowed to do. It is easier for us to step out of our circle, out of our box. And what I mean by that is like one of the big things that separates us as nutritionists from medical practitioners, doctors and dietitians, right, is the fact that we are going to focus on education and we're going to focus on encouraging healthy decision making, right? And so the difference between like a coach or and a doctor, right, is that like a doctor can say, this is what's ailing you, this is what's going to fix it, right? Whereas like what we can do is say, look, you clearly have dysfunction in your health and in your life. And what we can do is we can enhance your overall quality of life and make you healthier on the whole. And if that helps with your diabetes, great. If that helps with your hypertension, excellent. If it has the effect of like that you're looking for, very, very good. You know what I mean? Like that's the big difference here. We're not saying I'm going to cure your diabetes. That's where we start becoming. That's the difference between the medical approach and the health approach. That's why those two industries are separate. Like there's the medical industry and there's the health and wellness industry. And it's funny, you know, like it would also be inappropriate. And it would be just as inappropriate for a doctor to step into the health and wellness industry. And I know that sounds really weird, but like if a doctor was like, hey, your cholesterol is really high and your blood pressure is really high. So what we want to do is we want to work on like your diet. You know, here are some foods that I want you to eat. That's totally fine. But if they were then also like, and you need to get more physically active, that right there, great. But if they were like, here's a workout that I want you to do, that would actually be totally inappropriate for that doctor, unless they are certified as a personal trainer or like fitness specialist. They can say like, I want you to get out there and go for a walk. You know, I want you to like be physically active, try to like go work out 3 to 4 times a week. They can say stuff like that because it's very general, right? And it's advice. But what they're not allowed to do is like, I want you to do this routine right here, 3 sets, 15 reps. That's our job, right? So That's called our scope of practice. We want to make sure that we know how to stay in that scope of practice. And the best way that I can describe it, the best way to like keep it in your head is remember that the big thing that we always do as like a coach is that we apply what I call or what we call guided self-help. Okay, so guided self-help is giving somebody all the tools they need to make a healthy, informed decision, right? So like guided self-help is you can, you know, leading the horse to water, but you are letting them take the drink, right? Like a doctor would say, like, this is the medication, I prescribed this medication to you, right? That's not what we do. What we do is it's like, look, it's been shown that high intensity exercise, like moderate to high intensity exercise, and low sugar diets have been shown to have a positive impact on diabetes, right? Does that, you have diabetes? Sounds to me like it would be a good idea for you to get on a moderate to high intensity activity program and a low sugar diet. Agree or disagree? Right? Like we're leaving it in their hands. They're the ones making those decisions. And that's why like you can go to places like Jenny Craig, you know, like they sell those like meal kits and stuff. Like you can go to those places and they'll be like, they'll analyze people and they'll say, this is the program that's going to help you lose weight. Right. Because like me saying that, like if I was like, you know, Marvin, I'll use an example because he just popped in. If I said like, Marvin, you know, this is the diet that's going to help you get to your goals. And then I just like handed it to you and like gave you all the tools necessary. I didn't prescribe it to you. I didn't tell you to do that program, right? I just made it very appealing, right? And so I led you there and educated, but I didn't prescribe it, right? And that's really the big difference, right? And that's why you see trainers all the time like hand out meal plans, even though we are not allowed to prescribe meal plans. Like you can give examples, but you cannot give them, like you cannot custom things specifically. One other way, by the way, to get around that is to work with the client directly. If you ask them for a list of foods and then you circle the best ones and then you assemble it all together for them, that's fine. They were also instrumental in putting that meal plan together. So it's, you know, you can't, you know, that's on them at that point, right? So again, that's the big difference here. Now, and when I talk about all this legal stuff, sometimes it sounds a little scary, where it's like, am I gonna have to deal with this at some point? Like, am I ever gonna? Honestly, guys, I don't know anybody who ever has. I don't know a single trainer in my entire career who has actually gotten in trouble, and I think I know more trainers than most other people do because I'm talking about ex-students as well. I've never known a single trainer to actually get in trouble doing any of this. But I also think that like being aware of like what protects you and just never crossing over that. And I'm sure I've crossed over that line, but trying as often as possible to not cross over that line. You know, it's like gambling. You know, you're not putting more numbers on the, you know, you're not putting more chips on the table. So, so registered dietitians, they're medically trained. I always get to say, I forgot, I always get to say this line and make fun of my friend, and I'll text her later to let her know. I used to work, when I worked at Biggest Loser, we would always do orientation in the morning and on Monday morning. And I would always set myself next to my friend who was a dietitian. She's the one who got me that job. And so I'd always make sure that like I would stand next to her and she would always say like, you know, she's like, remember guys, and she would like kind of dig it to the trainer. She'd be like, you can't out exercise a bad diet, right? And so then it would like go to me and I would go, and also remember, you cannot eat your way to a good posture or you cannot eat away your aches and pains. Like I would say something like that. And then like always like, so it was kind of a fun competition there, but like, you know, that is definitely something that I do recommend if you want to get into like nutrition consultation. Learning more about how to apply this guided self-help is a super helpful tool. But knowing an actual registered dietitian who is medically trained, you can actually work hand in hand with them. And so my friend Rebecca, who now lives in Missouri, I will often swap clients with her all the time. And it's really nice having a dietitian in your pocket. That's why it's always good to like, as a personal trainer, it's always good to like know a physical therapist. It's good to know a registered dietitian. And if you want to know a chiropractor, I know a chiropractor. Jessica is a chiropractor. I personally am she's actually like an example of the good type of chiropractor. That's like, she's like a chiropractic doctor, not a chiropractic practitioner. Those chiropractors, I'm like, meh. Like, I don't like the joint. Those places to me are kind of a waste of money. Because they'll help you feel good temporarily, but they don't do anything structurally. That's that. Anyway, I'm getting sidetracked. So, any questions on how the scope of practice stuff works before we sort of move on from that category? Anybody got any questions about how, like, is that pretty clear?
I remember you saying that you had a client, or not a client, but a student that used to go and cook for someone.
Oh, I had a buddy. So my buddy, yeah, oh my gosh. So Bobby, he ended up making enough money from doing this that he opened his own gym down in Hollywood. If you know Retrofit down in Hollywood, that's his gym. So he came over here from Scotland. That's where he's from. And so he had some type of Scottish personal training certification or English personal training certification. Came across the pond, got his, I think he went with ACE. I think he went because ACE is like the fast, cheap one. So he like went with that one just to knock it out and, have his license. And then he was a chef. So like he also like what he went to school for, like he paid his way through school being like a trainer, but like what he was trained in was like being a chef.
And you mean when you say trained, you mean like certified or?
Well, you got like a degree in
like
whatever.
He was a real culinary chef.
Yeah. What's that degree called? It's like culinary arts, I guess.
Or culinary arts.
Yeah, it's I'm not a good cook.
So is that what qualified him to go and cook for these people?
Yes. So he would like do these super sessions, right? And then he spent like spent like another year getting a massage therapy license. So he would come and do these like super sessions for like $250. And he would like show up and like train them for an hour, lay them on the table, give them like a 20-minute massage, like nothing crazy, and then he was in their house, right? So they would go like shower and like he would then whip up a meal. And it was like a full service. And it was just like these people he like exclusively worked in like Beverly Hills, like like just like the really ritzy areas. He was making a ton of money doing it. And he made enough. He put it all away. And now he's got a gym down in Hollywood. I asked him, I was like, what makes Retrofit? And he's like, it's a regular gym. We just play classic rock music. And I was like, that's great. That's like, and he's very good at understanding like marketing, like he's like, I'm going to be more successful if I have like a shtick, and sure enough, like his shtick is just that it's like people are, you got a lot of guys out there, particularly like a lot of bros out there who are like, yeah, I like the idea of the old school retro stuff. And it's like, it's a regular gym, but the walls are brick, and they play AC/DC all day.
Right. So I guess what I'm also asking is, so because of my certification in nutrition, I can't cook for anyone?
Wait, sorry. When you mean the certification you're getting?
Yeah, the certification I'll get right now. Does that make me, because I also cater. So I'm also like, kind of like, do you have to have some type of certification to even just cook for people? Do you have to in culinary arts?
You know what's funny? I actually can't answer that. I don't know.
Okay.
I'm not sure. I imagine there's got to be some type of like governing body, but at the same time, like high school kids working in restaurants, right?
Exactly. Yeah. Or people have like food trucks. Like they just, they just have all their like not certifications, but all of the whatever they need to like the food handlers licenses and stuff like that.
I've heard of that before. Yeah, so food handlers license is one. Many personal chefs. Yeah, So it's not mandatory.
Okay,
Yeah.
cool. So I could kind of do that,
Yeah.
but not, I guess, give medical advice or.
Well, yeah. I mean, honestly, all you would have to do. I would look more into this, by the way. I mean, we just did a
Okay, I will.
3-second
I
Google search,
appreciate you.
which I would not call research. So all my redneck family members would call research. But, 3 seconds, I would say. I'd say do more research than this, but it seems like it would be fine. But yeah, basically, you would just make the one thing you would want to be careful of and stay away from the medical side of things is like is specifically saying like, I'm going to cook this for you because this is going to address your diabetes. This is going to address your heart disease, right?
Got you.
That's a portrait. That is, you are walking the line of like medical advice at that point. But like saying, I've got a low sugar meal that I can make for you, and low sugar meals are associated with a reduced risk of diabetes. That's different, right? There's a difference between you do this.
All about that jargon.
This is a good idea. What's that?
All about that jargon.
Yeah, I mean, it really is. It really is at the end of the day. But we do see the difference, right? Like, we don't want to just simply prescribe. So yeah, that would be great, Alexis. I'd say, yeah, if you've got the catering experience and you know how to do all that stuff, I should, if you ever want me to put you in touch, I've got a graduate, Alex. Let me go to Instagram here and see if I can find him. He does that. Although I don't even think he trains anybody in here anymore. Zendaya. Zendaya 32. No, it's Christian Zendaya. There he is. So this is private. I don't have him followed. Oh God, I left him on read. To follow back. Whoops. Well, that's embarrassing in front of everybody. I am not so great at Instagram. Just everybody knows. If you ever follow me, I will eventually get there, but not quickly. I know that I have him on here though. So let's go to his Facebook. But he, you can see here what he does now is he actually, I think, strictly does meal prep. Gourmet Gains. That's right. Gourmet Gains. And he does like these different like packages, and you can see this is a Shopify account, and I think he ended up being so successful with this that he doesn't train anybody. I don't think he has any. He might have like a few private clients on the side, but I don't ever see him like advertise.
His website is really nice.
Yeah, he did a good job. Yeah. I think his girlfriend helps him manage it too, or his wife now. His wife helps him manage it.
Oh, thank you.
If you're listening,
you're a little bit behind, Brad.
I know, he would be making fun of me like really hard right now. He was vocal. But yeah, that's a road, guys. And next mod, we're gonna get into the life coaching stuff as well. I've got students who do that, and they got out of training. So yeah, so that's the difference between us. So things you want to do in your coaching process. So how do we, let's start breaking down what's the coaching process look like, right? Well, it looks pretty freaking similar to a personal training relationship, right? Like if I get if Eric comes to the gym and he's like, he's a brand new member and he's got a free 1-hour fitness assessment and a meeting with me, and I'm assigned to him as his trainer. I'm going to sit down with him and be like, all right, tell me a little about what it is you're working on. Let's gather some information about you. And I can use that to like formulate a plan. And then let me show you some of that plan so that you can like go off and do it, or you can hire me as your trainer, right? And that's what our fitness assessment is. It's our built-in sales pitch, right? Well, the same thing is true if you are like a coach, right? Let's say, let's say you are working at a gym, not as a trainer. I don't know what gym would actually have this, but you're just the coach. You're the nutrition coach at your gym, right? Remember when we had Crunch come and speak to us? They talked about how like they have their specific nutrition cert. So like maybe somebody just hires you for a nutrition consultation. Well, if you're going to do that, you need to start from the same place that you would with a personal training certification. You need to know about your client, right? So you need to know a little bit about their health history. You need to know a little bit about like what their goals are. And so we're going to start gather all their contact info, get all the basic stuff out of the way. We want to do a health history questionnaire, ask them if they are struggling with any comorbidities, diseases, conditions, anything like that. Always do a PAR-Q. Now, the PAR-Q is the physical activity readiness questionnaire. It is definitely questions more related to like, is it safe to, begin exercising today? Even in a nutrition consultation, I would say do a PAR-Q, knock it out. You're so fitness adjacent, and that's where like our core competencies are, that it's it only can serve you. You know what I mean? It may not be directly related to this like coaching process, but like, in the same way that like Alex probably like consults with people and he's like gets on the line with them when he's trying to like sell people on this like meal plan thing. I'm sure that he, figures out the best meal plan for them based on the data that they give him. I think that it can only be handy to have activity data as well. I know we're talking about nutrition today, but I would do a full PAR-Q. And then always get a list of any medications or supplements they're on. That's really helpful for two reasons. Medications, you want to know whether or not their heart rate is artificially lowered or raised, or blood pressure is artificially lowered or raised. You want to know if it's going to cause, lightheadedness or dizziness or any of the things that are sort of associated with different medications. And then supplements, which aren't going to have any like medical side effects in general. Generally, they're not. You want to know about them because like supplements are really great because they often give you a window into what somebody's goals are. Like if I talk to somebody and they're taking like CoQ10 and fish oil pills, I'm going to be like, they probably have like some version of like heart disease and their doctor is suggesting that they work on their cardiovascular health. Right. So when I hear that, because those two supplements are, primarily for like cholesterol, heart health, and a little bit of brain health and stuff. But if I have another client who's on like St. John's wort and B vitamin complex, and it's like, oh, they might struggle with like anxiety and depression because both of those supplements have been associated with that. This is, by the way, not me saying that those things work, but I do know like the more you learn about supplements, the more you sort of learn about sort of where they're most associated. So, I'm going to hear something like that. Great. Like that gives me insight, which is only going to help me in this process of, selling the client on, hiring my services. Next thing, let's get into actually looking at their diet history. And what I say by diet history is like, in order to understand where somebody's going, we need to understand where they are, right? And so we're going to do a food record. Now, there's a couple different ways you can do food records. Generally, this is something that takes place mid-session, or mid contract, mid-relationship, right? Like a lot of times, like people aren't going to have a food log before you meet them. So what you'll often do is you'll have them either go off and do like a one-day food log, or you can do these other versions like what we're about to see here in a second. I realized I just got a little bit ahead of my slides. So get their diet history, get their health history questionnaire, inquire about the use of supplements. And then we are going to look at these three things here. Now, the food log is probably the best. This right here, guys, is one of my all-time favorite tools in my job in general. I freaking love food logs. They are super, 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 super helpful. I'm just a big fan of awareness in general. I think it's our superpower. The more aware you can become of everything around you, the more likely you are to make course corrections and the correct decisions as often as possible, right? Like I used to not track my spending or my finances. And then I started like using mint.com to like look at and it gives me alerts where it's like, hey, you spent a lot more money on like entertainment this week. And it's like, I did go out to the movies a couple more times than I normally do. It's like, I'm probably going to dial that back for a little bit because I'm trying to save money right now. right? Like thanks to that like alert that I got, that a little bit of awareness, I was able to make a course correction. So course corrections are a huge important part of really just in health, overall like life improvement in every capacity. So we want to make those course corrections whenever we can. Awareness is going to help you with that. So food logs are super great, and this is one of my favorite little factoid stories. So they took a group of people and they lied to them, as they often do in a lot of medical experiments. And what they did was they had two groups of people, and they brought these groups in, and they were like, all right, we're going to put you in a diet on a diet and see if it's effective, and see what kind of positive impact it has on heart health and this and that. And they were like, but before we put you on this diet, we need to know what your lifestyle is like now so that we have like baseline data. And so everyone heard that and they're like, okay, yeah, that makes sense. And what it was, the experiment, they split them into two groups, and they told group A to food log, and for the next like 4 weeks. And so like food journal, every time they ate something, it would go in the food journal, what they ate, when they ate it, how much they drank, right? All of this data would go into the food journal. And they were like, we're going to have you track this for 4 weeks. And then we're going to put you, we're going to take that data, we'll formulate a plan, and we'll put you on a diet and see if that diet's successful. And then the other group, they were like, all right, so we're going to see you guys in 4 weeks, and we're going to start this diet plan. So one group was told to food journal for 4 weeks, and the other group was told, we'll start this diet in 4 weeks, right? And both groups were told they're going to start this diet in 4 weeks. Just one had to do food journaling first. So what they noticed is at the end of that 4-week period, the group who was just waiting around didn't change. They had no reason to change their habits, right? They're like, oh, I'm going on a diet soon. But for the most part, their weight stayed pretty much the same. The other group who, the doctors in this experiment, they didn't say change your diet, but everybody started food journaling, and they started becoming aware of what they were putting into their body every day. And everybody in that group, the whole experiment, lost a little bit of weight over that 4 weeks. They weren't on a diet. They're not burning extra calories from writing. You know what I mean? Like, that's not going to explain their weight loss, right? So what explains their weight loss is the fact that they just became simply more aware. So that increase in awareness, awareness is our superpower. It's why we like these different types of like food logs. So a food log is either generally broken down, and 4 weeks is a long one, but into like a 1-day period, a 3-day period, or a 7-day period, right? And so if we can do like a 1, 3, or 7-day food log, it's going to give us a really accurate view on what our client's life looks like. Now, obviously, this can be prone to mistakes as well. If you take a 3-day food log starting on a Friday, and then all of a sudden your client goes out and parties for the weekend, and you're like, good Lord, you don't eat healthy, and then the rest of the week they do, right? And then we put them on like a super calorie restricted, that's not going to be a good use of data. So the more data you can get, generally, the better. That's why we like the longer versions. But yeah, it gives your client a very objective view on their food intake. And it allows us to sort of assess their patterns and see kind of what times they like to eat, what types of foods they enjoy. And then we can come up with a plan, that reflects that. Now, on a first session, you're probably not, they probably don't have a food log already, because you just met this person. So, so in the first session, when you want to get started with someone, there's 2 questionnaires that work a little bit better. One is the 24-hour dietary recall. It's basically like a food log where you're kind of going into the past. And it's like, all right, let's start and work our way backwards. So it's 9:30 in the morning right now. So I would say, Daryl, what is it that you had for breakfast today? Let's work our way backwards. Anything but like, what did you have last night for dinner? Work our way backwards. What about lunch? Any snacks? We're just going to kind of work our way backwards for 24 hours until we have it all kind of laid out, right? And once we have all that, we're going to try to get them to recall and remember anything they ate within the last 24 hours. And that's going to give us a somewhat accurate idea of their eating habits. Now, obviously, human memory is extremely flawed. So, not the most accurate version, but again, like this is a first session. So that usually can be very effective. And another one that you ask is a food frequency questionnaire. So NASM actually started incorporating this into the general fitness assessment that they have for download. So you go to NASM's website, you go to downloads, and you click the assessments form over here, lifestyle and health history handout. You'll notice this has a couple food frequency questions on it. We look at our diet and it's like, what would you rank your daily salt intake? What would you rank your daily sugar intake, your daily fat intake? That's pretty good. That gives us an idea. If you want to get a little bit more specific with that, there's some other ones out there for sure. I actually keep one on my computer here. No, that's not the one I want. Where's the Kingston? There it is. Oh, is that it? No, hold on. Oh, maybe I don't have it on here. But you can find a food frequency questionnaire. This first one right here. This is probably going to be way bigger than it needs to be. Because there's so many different types of foods out there. And this one's by the N. Haynes, which is like, that's like the nutrition people. Yeah, this is massive. But I mean, it's not, the more data you get, the better. But this is probably a little bit more intense. But it's like, yeah, we go to the top here. It starts off with, over the past 12 months, how often do you drink tomato juice or vegetable juice in general, right? 2 to 3 times a week, 1 to 2 times per week, right? How often do you have orange juice or grapefruit juice? So this is like specifically into, wow. Yeah, that's really detailed. I probably would never use something that detailed. That's extremely, extremely detailed. But, learning a little bit about like what their common foods are is really helpful, My client tells me they have gastrointestinal distress, and then I look at their food frequency questionnaire and I find that they drink milk every day and dairy products. I'm like, maybe you're lactose intolerant, I'm definitely not allowed to diagnose that. But like, I'd say, let's, like this, sometimes dairy has been associated with gastrointestinal problems. Thank you. So yeah, so that is, those are our two major sections there for in the first session, right? In general, I think a food log would be better. By the way, food journals make really great Christmas gifts for your clients. It's one of my favorite things to do. I will often, I get just like a little crafty. I go down to the dollar store, go buy some very blank, common looking journals. I go to like a craft store and I go get the little apple stamp, put a little apple on there, make it look like a nice little thing, wrap it up in Christmas wrap and give it to my clients for Christmas. Super great, and they're like very thoughtful. It shows me going above and beyond. I spent maybe $30 for all of my entire client, and there we go. So love food logs, super helpful tool, only makes you better. Minimal effort. So we love food logs. They're a really great way for us to gather very specific information about like what has been eaten, the number of days that and you can also start to see like their patterns, right? And it's like, hey, like, look at your food log. You've got really good self-control throughout the whole week, but your weekends are a mess. You know what I mean? Like we can see that data. And then all of a sudden they're like, my weekends are a mess, right? Again, awareness, right? 24-hour dietary recall is really helpful because it's very similar to a food log. It's just probably a little bit less accurate because like, remembering something is always harder than tracking it as it happens. And then food frequency questionnaires are really helpful in helping your client come to the realization that, like how often do you hear somebody who's like maybe like a smoker and they're like, well, I'm not like a smoker. I'll have a cigarette whenever I have like a drink, or when I'm in a party with friends, or when I do this, or when I do, oh God, it's a lot, like, but they didn't see themselves as a smoker, you know what I mean? Like, food frequency questionnaires can be a really good way to kind of highlight that. It's like, no, I don't have sugar that often. I just have Oreos on Mondays and cupcakes on Tuesdays. It's like, oh no, like, so again, coming to awareness. And then exercise logs as well. Everybody in here, every one of you guys should absolutely be tracking your workouts in the gym. I don't care who it is. If you are somebody who lifts weights, everyone should use some version of like a weight training tracking app, right? Or book, right? Amazon fitness exercise log. You can see I've bought this like a bajillion times. It'll be like, you bought this a million times. 16 bucks. And it lasts, if you're working out like 3-4 days a week, probably last you about 4 or 5 months, it's great. Then they got a nutrition one as well, actually. I haven't actually goofed around with that one personally. But super, super helpful, and it just shows you, because like there are plenty of times where like you'll go into the gym and been like, this is easy today. And then all of a sudden you look at your weights and you're like, oh, I'm lifting 20% lighter than I normally do, So exercise logs are really great. They also will help you determine if your client is exercising at the gym or if they are going to the gym, which are sometimes separate, like plenty of people who are like, they're like, I spent, 90 minutes in the gym this weekend. I went to and did 2 45-minute sessions. It's like, that's great. But then you find out that it's, they were there and, maybe it was like stretching for 45 minutes, which by the way, I am a huge fan of, but it doesn't exactly burn a lot of calories. So then if they're like trying to understand why they're not like, in a caloric deficit, why they're not losing weight, well, that kind of explains it. It's like, well, we need to look a little bit more into the intensity of your workouts. And we can see that if we, take a look at their exercise log. So whether it's a food log or an exercise log, I am a huge fan. Doesn't matter. I love them both. Now, obviously, one thing that we need to be aware of, we don't do any clinical assessments. That's not our role, right? Again, we're not looking at any of these things from a medical standpoint. Again, if I had somebody say they have gastrointestinal problems, and then I look and see all that dairy in their diet, and I'm like, well, maybe it's lactose intolerance, right? I'm probably not going to say that. I'm probably not going to say like, hey, I think you have a lactose intolerance, right? What I'll say is like, there's a lot of dairy, dairy is associated with lactose intolerance. Why don't you go talk to your doctor and do like a blood test and find out if you have this problem, find out if you have this, it's not an allergy, but this issue, right? And so you can always encourage your clients to go meet with their doctors. There's nothing wrong with that at all. In fact, I would highly encourage it. And because that's only going to help you like learn more, new doctor's going to look at their blood and all that stuff, and they're going to look at it from a medical standpoint. But some of that information can translate into like decisions, right? If their doctor's like, yeah, I think you should get physically active. Cool, right? That only reinforces us, right? So there are actually tools out there that like doctors and dietitians will use if they do like a very specific food log, books on like nutrient compositions and things like that. We don't have to worry about that micronutrient stuff. This is one of the reasons why, like I told you guys, I don't think it's that important for us to memorize where you're going to find like how much of a vitamin or a mineral is in every specific food. I think that you can do that work. I don't think it would be, well, I do think it would actually be very difficult. But I just don't think it would be very beneficial, because if you do all that work and you spend all that time and effort, it's just not going to serve you very well during sessions. But that being said, knowing what like foods are rich in categories of vitamins, categories of minerals, right? Whether it's like, we know we get a lot of B vitamins from high protein sources. We know we get a lot of fat soluble vitamins from very colorful sources. We know we get a lot of minerals from, whole unprocessed foods, right? Knowing that type of information and translating that to your clients, that's very, very, very helpful. And then if you do have a client who their doctor says, yeah, you need to increase your vitamin A intake, right? That's the advice they're going to give. They're probably going to say that, or they're going to say, go take a vitamin A supplement, right? But then they come to us and they're like, my doctor said that I'm I need more vitamin A. We can look up very easily good sources of vitamin A. And, it's going to be all kinds of like orange vegetables, right? Right, we're going to see carrots, sweet potatoes, cantaloupe, actually. Salmon's a really good one. Avocados are a good one. Those aren't even orange. I'm surprised broccoli's on that list. Broccoli, like, apparently. Apricots, squash, certain types of meats are going to have some vitamin A in them because they are fat soluble. So, like, these are all pretty darn good sources of like beta carotene, right? Highly packed full of vitamin A. So again, I don't necessarily recommend memorizing there's no reason to know how much vitamin A is going to be found in a sweet potato. But knowing that like you can look it up and find good sources of vitamin A, and then you've got the tips and tricks for how to increase that intake. Like, here's how to get more sweet potatoes in your diet and stuff like that. There we go. Like that's the process we want to go through, right? That's what coaching is, right? We are guiding our client to them self-helping, them helping themselves. Another really good way to do that is the My Plate food guidance system. This is why if you go to choosemyplate.gov, this is a terrific website that has a ton of, you go to the resources here and look at like print materials. They just have like all these really great little infographics and handy ways to like, here's 5 different ways to eat brown rice. Like if somebody's just like, oh, I don't like brown rice because I don't think it tastes good. Here's 5 recipes to incorporate brown rice into your diet. These little handouts and things like this are super, super, super helpful tools that you can give your clients, right? It costs you nothing but a little bit of effort, and it shows that you are going out of your way to like give them the resources they need. 7 pages of graphics like this. Turn your resolutions into solutions. Turkey 5 different ways. Here's varying your protein sources. Really great little resources. This is on choosemyplate.gov, or I think you can just go over, myplate.gov. And then there's videos. There's little tools. They have like a little calculator here. You can get like a little My Plate plan, and it's got like a little app actually. But you can just literally, where's the, whoops, that is not the language I speak. But yeah, put your age in there. I'm just gonna go like that. And I hit next. Maybe we'll say, I'm just gonna, let's be fast about this. 2,600 calories, and we click that and check it out. It just made us a meal plan, right? I can download it as a PDF, and there we go. It's like, hey, try to get 2 cups of fruit a day, 3.5 cups of vegetables, 9 ounces of whole grains, 6.5 ounces of protein, 3 cups of milk. Holy crap, USDA. All right, here's one thing I do want to address. The US loves milk. Holy crap, we love milk. Our entire economy is built on cows. Yeah, because it's America. So I'm not saying milk is really high in sugar and saturated fat. So skim milk or low fat milk is probably what they're going to recommend. There's definitely some biasness in this meal plan. Still though, it's actually pretty darn healthy. And if you don't have problems with milk, then great, go for it. I don't think it's bad for you. I do think it's very high in calories though. Like milk is higher in calories than soda, believe it or not. You get to drink a larger glass of soda than you do a glass of milk if you want, let's say, 200 calories. That's kind of weird. So not that soda is healthier than milk. I think milk is definitely healthier because it's got vitamins, minerals, proteins in it. But you can see, like, if we're prioritizing calorie reduction, well, now milk is kind of on the list of foods that's like, well, that's not super great. So my plate, guys, super valuable tool. I really recommend it. Goof around with it. Everybody in here, everybody should, I don't ever, I can't assign homework that's not, our little multiple choice quizzes, but like everybody in here should start, goofing around with my plate and just try to like formulate your plans as best you can. I used to put like my meal prep up on my Instagram for a little while, and it was just like, and it would have like a bunch of examples of like my plate things. Then we can look we've got to figure out like what our actual recommendations are. So when we talk about our clients recommendations, one of the biggest things that we got to look at is calories, because we do know that like weight management is probably one of the most common goals we are going to run into. And we know that in the US, generally, we struggle with weight control. That is a big issue in this country. So looking at our dietary recommendations, there's a lot of different ways for us to look at recommended caloric intake. Now, this right here is the REE equation. Guys, I don't know what the best equation is. There's a million equations out there, and none of them are going to actually be perfect. Now, we need to act as if they are perfect. We need to sort of consider them as perfect. But the reality is that they're not, right? So like, let's say like I'm going to calculate my resting energy expenditure. Okay. So I am, let's see. So I'm 81 kilograms, right? So if I need to figure out what my REE is, my resting energy expenditure, that's going to be 15.3 times 81 plus 679. So I burn on average 1,900 calories per day existing at rest, right? If I were to sleep all day, that's pretty accurate. That's pretty close. It's a little high. That's giving me a little bit too much credit. Now that I'm in my 30s, that's a little slower. Oh, actually, I just realized I used the 18 to 31. Yeah, 11.6 times 81 plus 879. Yeah, there we go. 1,800 is right around. So then what I need to do is like, I need to multiply that by like an activity factor. So if I multiply that by like 1.6, that tells me I need to eat 2,900 calories a day. That's actually pretty accurate when I am physically active. If I'm extremely active, it can go even higher. So that is sort of how we use this formula, right? It's not bad. It's the REE methods is, I think it gives you a little bit more credit than it should for people sometimes. I think it often like boosts their calories a little beyond what I personally would recommend. But it's not a bad method. So if I started with that, maybe that's the formula I start with, and that's the one I want to use. I use it for a little while, and then after a couple weeks, I'm like, man, my client's not really getting the results they're supposed to be getting. All right, maybe I use a different formula, or maybe I just make an adjustment from there. Be like, hey, 2,700 calories is not quite working for you. Let's try taking it down to 2,600 and see what happens. And then all of a sudden the scale starts moving the way it's supposed to. All right, let's try 2,500. And then suddenly it's right where it's supposed to. They're not losing weight too quickly, but they're right. It's like, oh, okay. So, our formula was off just a little bit. That's fine, guys. That's what dialing it in is, Again, one more reason why like food logs and awareness are so important, because you can track those numbers and see whether or not they're fluctuating the way you're supposed to. I can't tell you how many times I've been like, man, I'm saving money. I'm not spending a dime. And I look at my thing and I'm like, oh yeah, I forgot that I bought that freaking video game. We are not aware as we think we are. So you can also do a vitamin and mineral assessment when you look at this, like in addition to looking at like their energy assessment, right? We can also take a look at their vitamin and mineral content, taking a look and seeing sort of like what that looks like and what their diet is, and say, okay, I see a lot of energy here, but I'm not seeing a lot of but I'm not seeing a lot of like nutrients. So I do want to kind of just show you really quickly. This is a very fast video by ASAP Science, but they're going to break down what 200 calories looks like. So when I was just talking about the difference between like milk and soda, this video is going to have that as an example, actually. So what 200 calories looks Um, it's just a fun little like 3-minute video that kind of breaks this down.
Made with 100% yellow peas. That's that nostalgia.
Why you? Here we go.
We're all told to eat healthy and be aware of our calorie intake through the day, but have you ever stopped to think about what those calories look like? For example, this is 200 calories worth of apple. On the other hand, if we take 200 calories of cheese, it doesn't look quite the same in terms of volume. Throw 200 calories of wine into the mix for a nice wine and cheese, and you have 3 very different looking versions of 200 calories. Now compare that wine to beer or rum, and you have 3 very different party nights for your stomach. Or how about the eggs you had for breakfast? Compare that to 200 calories of sweet cereal you had the other day, or even some oatmeal, and they're bound to seem a bit different. But if you had gotten a sausage and egg breakfast sandwich, you'd be looking at even less. Broccoli? You may be surprised by the amount you can eat before you hit 200 calories. Not to mention, this stuff is packed with nutrients and a great source of fiber. A slice of pizza? Less than a slice if it has pepperoni on it. And what about the classic Big Mac? Try a 200-calorie Small Mac. And since calories are simply units of energy, with the calories of 217 Big Macs, you could drive your car 35 kilometers. So wait, what is a calorie? Specifically, a calorie is the amount of energy or heat it takes to raise the temperature of 1 gram of water by 1 degree Celsius. We need energy to survive, and we get it from food. Carbohydrates, protein, and fats are the building blocks of our food, and each contribute a different amount of energy to our bodies. The average person needs somewhere between 2,000 to 2,700 calories a day, depending on factors like height, weight, gender, and age. And some foods, like peanut butter, are calorie dense, filling this requirement faster. Or that muffin you ate as a snack, chances are its calorie content is higher than you thought. And those irresistible Doritos? Don't lie, you ate the whole bag. Unlike celery, which has very few calories, giving you lots to munch on. Or carrots. Not so much Hershey's Kisses. And if you're eating salad to limit calories, watch out for creamy dressing, particularly French dressing. On its own, black coffee is quite low in calories. You can have a lot before you hit 200 calories. But once you add 1 cream and 1 sugar, those calories quickly add up. Turn it into a specialty drink like an iced peppermint white mocha, and you might be shocked at the amount left. But just because something has less calories doesn't necessarily mean it's healthier or better for you. Take for example this 200 calories of Coke versus 200 calories of whole milk. While it's true that the Coke contains fewer calories per liter, you can't forget that milk contains many nutrients and healthy fats. Or like brown bread versus white bread. Yes, whole wheat bread often contains more calories per slice, but it also contains more nutrients and fiber. So, counting calories isn't the be-all and end-all, but thinking about what goes into your body is bound to make a difference. At the end of the day, eat a healthy and balanced diet. And if you'd like to see even more 200-calorie examples, check out the Wise Geek post we've linked in the description, which puts even more food into perspective. Got a burning question you want answered? Ask it in the comments or on Facebook and Twitter, and subscribe for more weekly science videos.
So that's kind of an interesting, sort of a look at food, right? Like that wasn't necessarily a list of good foods and bad foods. Just because there's a higher volume doesn't always mean that it's healthier, although most of the time it does. What we need to look at is like the nutrient density, right? And that's what we want to encourage our clients in, right? So I love having my clients like take a look at their, I love like looking at my clients' food logs and then just making little swaps. You know what I mean? Like if somebody's like, yeah, I had, like a PB&J sandwich on like Wonder Bread. I'm like, great. I'm a fan of PB&J, right? But let's see if we can find a low sugar jam that's gonna, work a little bit better. Go with like a preserves rather than like a jelly. And then let's, make sure that we go with like natural peanut butter, which is going to be higher in protein, lower in sugar. And then, and if you want to, you can, make sure there are natural peanut butters out there without all those added hydrogenated oils and stuff that do still mix pretty well. And then swap it out for whole grain bread. Still get to have a PB&J sandwich. You know what I mean? We're just eating a healthier version of it. That's coaching, right? I didn't say what to eat. I just, came up with options that are, I highlighted options to my client and showed them how to make small adjustments. All I did was highlight my expertise. That's what experts are. Every time you've wanted to learn something, what do? You get on YouTube, you get on the internet, and you're like, how do I do this? And you watch some expert give you their knowledge so that you can absorb that and make it your own. That's what our clients are coming to us for. They're looking for knowledge. So gather that information at the very beginning of your consultation. That's going to help you assess their dietary intake, help you learn a little bit about their goals, and then we can start providing that education. We can start breaking that down. Definitely always ask your client. You do want to definitely review the reasons that they're actually seeking nutrition consultation. The reason why is because that's going to, again, give us insight into what's important to them and what they're motivated by, what they're interested in. So we want to review the reasons that they are sort of coming to us. So my favorite way to start off a session: tell me why you're here. Love that question because we can get a very clear idea. And then we can identify what their goals are, right? Then we can start providing education on things, right? Then we can start being like, okay, well, here's, I'm seeing this kind of thing, this kind of thing, this kind of thing, right? This is a diet that's relatively high in saturated fat. So if we can find a couple ways to swap this out for some unsaturated sources, that is going to, reduce your risk of cholesterol problems and things like that, right? So, what do you think of these protein swaps? What do you think of these leafy vegetables that we can try to incorporate into things, right? So that is sort of how we're going to do this. Now, once we sort of summarize all the information up, right, and we're like, here's sort of what we've got planned. Now what we need to do is we need to actually get our clients to do it. This is the hard part. So honestly, coming up with a plan is actually relatively easy, right? I mean, honestly, we could probably just get online and be like, use that MyPlate calculator and boom, I've got a plan, give it to my client, done and done. You know what I mean? That actually wouldn't work very well because the problem with it is we're not actually giving our clients the tools to even do the program, right? We all know what healthy foods are for the most part, right? We all know what we're supposed to do when it comes, we're supposed to be more physically active. We're supposed to eat healthy, right? So to eat our freaking veggies, right? But doing it is often the hard part. And that's the next step in coaching. So let's say we get out of the initial session and we start looking at actually coaching the client. One of the things you are going to need to do is understand where your client falls in the stages of change. So I've got another little video here. Stages of change. There it is. So this is, I want to show the brief one though. I don't want the long video today. We're going to do the long video when we get more into this in exercise psych. But for now, here's a quick little video breaking down these different stages that we all kind of go through whenever we're trying to change and come up with new habits.
The trans-theoretical model, also known as the stages of change, represents a person's readiness to change. There's 6 stages. These are pre-contemplation, contemplation, preparation, action, maintenance, and relapse and lapse. Today, we'll look at the model in the context of alcohol and other drug use. Identifying where a person might be at in the change process can provide some direction as to how they can best be supported. Let's take a closer look. Pre-contemplation. People in this stage aren't worried about their use. They're not interested in stopping or cutting back. Even though other people might be concerned about their use, for them the benefits far outweigh the consequences. Contemplation. People in this stage of change still enjoy using. However, maybe they're starting to notice some problems from their use. They're weighing up what changing might mean for them. Preparation. This is when the not so good things about using are starting to outweigh the things they enjoy about it, and they begin preparing to make a change to their use. Action. They've started to make changes to their alcohol or drug use. It will depend on the person's goal, but this might include things like using less or stopping. Maintenance. They're maintaining this change. They've been in the action stage for long enough that change has become easy. They've got this. They're no longer dealing with constant cravings and triggers and have maintained their goal for a significant period. Relapse or lapse. A relapse is a return back to using, and a lapse is a slip-up. A lapse does not automatically lead to a relapse. Both lapses and relapses provide an opportunity for the person to learn more about themselves, what triggers them or challenges them, and what promotes opportunities for growth. It's really important to help the person see any lapse or relapse as a learning opportunity as opposed to a failure. People learn a lot more from their setbacks than from their successes. And that's the stages of change, or as it's known as in technical terms, the trans-theoretical model.
So the stages of change is really interesting because this is what we've all gone through a million times in our lives whenever we've wanted to like change our habits, right? Like think about like where you are in terms of something that you're working on in your life right now. Chances are like at some point you were unaware of the benefits of this thing that you're currently working on, right? You were unaware of or at least like you were unaware that it sort of applied to you, you know? A lot of people will often sort of just start by assuming they're the exception to the rule sometimes, right? So because of that, like you're unaware of the benefits of like changing, right? Maybe you were unaware, even it's just like looking at like starting here at Sochi, right? Maybe you were like, hey, I'm looking for a career change. I'm looking for, something that I can be an expert on, but like, I don't necessarily know how I'm going to do it. And so then like, it doesn't necessarily like, pursue it. It's like, it may be an idea just itching around in the back of your head. But then like, maybe you saw an advertisement for Sochi on Instagram or Facebook or something like that, or a friend told you about it. And you're like, oh, there's a school that can help like guide me specifically. I could see myself doing that. And now suddenly you've just moved from the pre-contemplation, I'm not thinking about making a change in my life, to the contemplation, I'm thinking about making a change in my life, right? So then you start doing a little bit more research, start learning a little bit about things like, and then it starts to become less of, oh, I see that there's this thing that exists, to, oh, there's this thing that I can do. So you start seeing yourself in the shoes of like being able to do this. And that's where you're starting to move out of contemplation into action. And action might be like, all right, well, yeah, let me test the waters a little bit. Let me dip my toes in and see if this is going to work a little bit. So we look at the action stage right after we've sort of like gotten prepped, right? Learned a little bit about seeing ourselves doing it. Then we can start taking like specific little actions. And once you sort of like dip your toes in the water, you start getting more comfortable with it and doing it regularly, then we would consider that to be maintenance, right? So that's sort of like tracking someone's journey, right? So let's look at this, right? So somebody and this is, by the way, these are really good test questions. You will, I think like it's only 8 or 9% of your test is the exercise psychology and behavior coaching. So there's not going to be a lot of questions on your NASM exam, but these right here, they make great multiple choice questions. So you can almost guarantee, like just by looking at this content, you're like, oh, that's the kind of thing that people are going to ask me questions about, That's, by the way, sometimes being a good test taker, guys, is less about like knowing information, being able to like study information, and more about knowing what types of questions make good test questions, right? Your teachers loved, what year did this battle happen? Because it's a great multiple choice question. You can ask it and then you can put 4 options. Super simple to ask. But like me, I find memorizing dates nearly impossible. I could never do that crap when I was in school because I was like, why does this matter? Like it happened on a Tuesday. Why is that important? Well, it's probably not, but it is a very good test question. So this information here is actually very good information, but it also is the type of thing that makes good test questions. So memorize these definitions. Pre-contemplation are individuals who are lacking the intention of making a change in the near future. Now, another version of this, another way that you'll often see the trans-theoretical model of change laid out is it will also give you timelines for things. So this is somebody who is not intending to make a change within like the next 6-month period. Like, it's very rare that people change their habits, what they call it, cold turkey, right? Some people do, and they do great at it, but it's not for everybody, right? That's the problem that I think a lot of people like have, is that they don't understand that like not everybody can go cold turkey, right? And even people who did go cold turkey probably thought about it for a little while, right? I don't think there is a smoker on the planet who has been like a regular smoker, and then somebody went to them and was like, you should stop smoking, and all of a sudden they were like, you're right, and then they just quit out of nowhere. You know, like, that's just not how we change our habits. It's not how we process information, right? Our response in that scenario would be, why? And then we're on the road, you know. Like, so pre-contemplation is lacking the intention of changing, probably within like the next 6 months. Contemplators, very similar. These are people who are not intending on changing today, but they're like, you know what, this is something I should do in the future. And they see themselves like doing this sometime within the next 6 months. So like, I had really bad credit card debt out of college, and, you know, student loans and all that stuff. Did not do super well my first couple of years, like out of school. I just wasn't managing my money very well. And, you know, live in Los Angeles and coming from us, you know, like I came from a small town where I was like used to things being like cheaper. And so like my scale for what to spend money on was just totally out of whack. And so like I got into this like debt, and I just kind of let that debt sit there for a long time because I was like completely overwhelmed looking at it. I was like looking at this giant chunk of money, and I was like, oh, there's no world in which I can ever pay that off. And so like in my early 20s, that's how I felt. I was like, there's no way that I can do this as like as a 22-year-old. You know, I just don't have the tools necessary. I don't make that much money, blah, 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 right? So I was pre-contemplating. There was like no world in which I could do it. But then like I started learning a little bit more about like how to manage my finances. I learned a little bit more about money. I also started like charging more for my personal training sessions and realizing the value that I have. Got a better job to make more money here and there, you know? And so then I started being like, gosh, I'm doing a little bit better financially than I used to be. Maybe I can pull this off. Maybe I can pay down this huge amount of debt that I have. So there we go. So now suddenly I started thinking about it. And so I was like, you know what I'm going to do is I'm going to get to a place where I can put money aside. And so I started like saving money for the first time in my life. Now, moving from there, I started preparing, right? And what I had to do to move into the preparation stage in my case is I had to first get my find the tools that are going to help me like be aware of my finances. And I started being a lot smarter about like what I was doing with my personal training money, right, from clients. This is the advice that I gave you guys last module in our professional development class, where I talked about like you should always have at least 2 bank accounts. One is where your money gets deposited from your clients, and one of them is your spending account, and you pay yourself to your spending account from your depository account. And that depository account, I literally cut up that debit, like, you know, open the new account 3 days later or whatever it takes. You know, business card shows up, instantly sliced it up, threw it in the trash. Gone. That way I can never spend money from my depository account. So if I get a client who gives me a 12 session, you know, paycheck, right? I'm not just going to go out and spend that money instantly. I'm going to spend that money after I've trained the session. So I started doing that. I was like, that's a plan that's going to work really well for me. And I learned that from other trainers. So now it's like, okay, like, you know, I thought about it and now I'm starting to implement it, right? Started making like little changes. And then it was like a snowball effect. By making those little, like that little preparatory change and like opening the accounts, then I started doing it. I started like dipping my toes in the water and like making a change. You can move very quickly from preparation to action. Sometimes, you know, usually we see an individual in the preparation stage is intending to make a change viably within the next like 30 days, right? So contemplation is like sometime within the next 6 months, I'm going to do this, right? So I had like the intention. I'm sitting there on my phone in bed being like, maybe I can do this. You know, I start to see myself as capable, right? And then as soon as I'm like, you know what, I'm going to start preparing, right? And started putting that infrastructure in place. And it was just a snowball. I went to the bank and I was like, can I open another checking account? And they're like, yeah. And I was like, really? I was like, but all my debt and my credit. And they're like, your credit, it's a checking account. We don't care what your credit is for checking accounts. And I was like, oh my God, I did not know that. You know, like 22-year-old, you know, like, so I was like, holy cow. And so that was something I didn't. So then all of a sudden, like things started rolling so much better for me. And then I started raising my prices. And I was like, I went from charging like $35 an hour per session to like $50 an hour, to $60 an hour, to $70 an hour, right? And then I, you know, started realizing, guess what? People will pay it because I'm worth it, right? Like I'm valuable enough to do this. I almost can guarantee every one of you guys is going to undercharge when you first get out there. Everybody does. It's like, it's what every trainer does. They all, every massage therapist, all of the teachers at Sochi, we all talk about this. Like all of our, everybody undercharges at first. It's just like what we do. And then you start to realize you're a freaking valuable service and people will pay it, you know? So yeah, I'm getting out, but preparation, right? So I started to like sort of like think about how to, and once that infrastructure is in place, I moved, it didn't take me 30 days. I started making these changes the next day. You know, I moved straight from preparation right into action. So action is an individual who has made changes. Now, it's not like this was perfect, you know, like it wasn't like, you know, I started pay down my debt. I started putting $500 on it every month consistently. 500 gone. Then it was 1,000, 1,500 gone, 2,000 down. I was like, oh my God, like I'm a fifth of the way down. You know what I mean? And then like suddenly this, and then suddenly that. And it just started snow. And I was like, this is easy. And then I started having like more money to spend in my life. I started having more of this, more of that. And realizing that like, oh man, handling my finances was so easy. And I just didn't know. I didn't have any financial literacy, you know? And so there were definitely times where like I'd fall off the wagon, you know. I sometimes forget. I have a really bad habit of like forgetting when my payments are. And so then what I also did not know, because a couple times like I'd be like, crap, I forgot my you know, and then all of a sudden I get another late charge, like I did a lot in my 20s. Man, I did that all the time. But then I started, you know what you can do that I did not know? I just like called my credit card and I was like, can I get all of these put on the same day? And I put it 5 days after I get paid. Suddenly I got even better at it, right? So yeah, I fell back a little bit, right? That would be what we call a lapse. You know, a lapse is a temporary misstep. Miss a payment in my example, miss a gym session for your clients, you know. But then like, yeah, I moved forward. Like I was like, okay, I'm not gonna let this derail everything. I'm not giving up on this, right? And I got better and better and better at it. And so like that's the action side of things, right? You're taking small steps, and yeah, you're gonna have a step back here and there, you know. But as long as we don't let it completely like derail us, and then eventually you end up in maintenance. And this is where like if you're somebody who's in maintenance, you've maintained a change longer than 6 months. Consistently, you've been going to the gym every day, you're handling your finances if you're in my example, right? You know, like little things like that consistently. And it's just you're not really falling off. And if you do fall off the wagon, it's like, well, yeah, but this was because I went to a wedding. You know, it's like a very special circumstance. Like that's not even really falling off the wagon, you know? Obviously, by the way, I know a common example of all this is like drugs and alcohol. Those are things that you do not want to fall off on, but like you want to kind of avoid those lapses in general. If it's chemical based, that stuff that stuff messes with your brain. But we're just talking about strictly willpower and strictly habits. Like that's something, don't beat yourself up. If you have a lapse, it's not the end of the world. You just move forward, right? And eventually you end up like fully not really lapsing that often, if you've maintained a habit for 6 months or more. And eventually you can end up with what we call termination, which is like no temptation to return to old habits. So anybody out there who's got kids, this example is for you. Here's my favorite way to kind of highlight the stages of change model, right? You talk about like getting your kid to consistently brush their teeth every night. I remember my parents, I don't think it was that hard to get me to start brushing my teeth regularly, but I do remember like my parents like standing over me to make sure that I would do it. And so like, I'm sure that I'm probably remembering myself in a more positive light. But think about like the idea of like starting brushing your habits. At first, like a kid's gonna be like, no, I don't want to because this is boring. The only thing I want to do is play. Right? We'll go to bed on time. It's like, I don't want to go to bed on time. I want to play forever. I'm gonna play forever. Like that's classic kid, right? So then like, you try to get your client to, you try to get them to move out of like, this. How do you get them to highlight the benefits? And it's like, my parents scared me. And they're like, you've seen grandpa's teeth. If you don't brush your teeth, you're going to end up like grandpa. And that was the example they used because my grandpa had gnarly teeth. And I was like, oh God, so then all of a sudden I was like, all right, maybe I should do this teeth brushing thing every night, so you start contemplating, right? And then like, you try to find a way to make it easier. My parents, they got a cool looking toothbrush. You get a cup that's easy and, or you make it part of your habits where it's like, okay, we watch an episode of Inspector Gadget and then that's it for the night. We go and now and what do we do after we watch it is, we go brush our teeth, right? And so then we start putting infrastructure in place. We've prepared, right? We created a structure for our life to fit into, scaffolding to keep us on the path. You know what I mean? And then we just start doing it regularly, right? That's the action side of things. And once it's the habit, I mean, hopefully all of you guys are in the habit of, brushing your teeth, hopefully twice a day, and it becomes maintenance. And really the only thing you're working towards is, is preventing relapse, which at this point, hopefully everybody's in the termination state. It's not even a habit, it's not even a change anymore. It's just, this is the new default. When I used to start as a personal trainer, I had a really hard time waking up in the mornings. So I had to move through the stages of change model, I love sleeping in. I was like, no, my pillow's the best. I just want to stay here, like it's warm. Don't make me go. I don't want to go to work, and then like I started putting like, because that guy, the sleepy version of me, Sleepy Brad, that guy was a jerk, he would all I want to do is go back to bed. So like I had to find a way to like get that guy out of my life. And so I put structure in place, and the thing that worked for me, I moved my phone to my bathroom, and that's where the alarm would go off. And I put my toothbrush cup on top of my phone every night. And so then like I'd get up and I'd go to turn my alarm off and I'd have my toothbrush in hand, be like, oh, fine. And I would start my morning. Put the preparation in place, put the structure in place, and it allowed me to stay on maintenance. And that's the stages of change model, guys. Every one of your clients is going to go through this. So a lot of times when you're just, they're not thinking about changing, they start doing a little bit of food journaling, and all of a sudden they realize, I don't eat healthy. I did not know that I don't eat healthy. I mean, I knew that I like had Oreos every now and then, but like, what's the worst, and then all of a sudden it's like, I didn't realize it was every freaking day. And so they start to realize, so then they start thinking about making a change. So then it's like, how am I going to do this? And they start looking up diets online. They're like, that's one that I could probably stick to. Boom, preparation. They're like, let me go try some of these groceries out. Let me go buy some of these things that are on this list. All of a sudden they're in the act, they're dipping their toes in the water, right? They're preparing, they're acting, right? And then they do it better and they better and better and better. They come back to you as the client. You're giving them tools necessary to make it easier and easier and easier. And it just snowballs. And suddenly they've made a big change in their life. And that's the stage change. Any questions on how that works? There was a long explanation. We dove into my personal life a little bit, which always gets lengthy, but is that pretty clear to everybody?
Yeah, pretty good.
Very cool.
Yeah, as clear as it's gonna be.
Yeah. Do you
This
see,
morning.
do you start to see in your life like things that, like when
Right.
you started going to the gym, right? You're like, oh, I'll get the membership and then that'll make me go every day. And then you realize getting the membership is not enough. I gotta find a way to get me out of the freaking house, Maybe it's playing, pick up frisbee or playing pickup basketball or something. Everybody's got their things that helps them stay on track.
Basketball.
So what's that?
That basketball.
There it is. Yeah, that's your big thing. See, and that's what's kind of funny too, is like part of the coaching process. Daryl, if you were my coach, you'd be like, all right, we got to play, consistently. I am horrible at basketball, and so I kind of freaking resent basketball a little bit. How dare this thing exist that I'm not good at? So like, not a good motivator for me. And so as a coach, you can be like, well, let's try something you're a little better at, And so like that's always kind of an interesting part of the process as well. And that we'll talk more about like that specific stuff where it's like the trial and error parts of coaching. That we'll get to that in our exercise psychology class. But that is always kind of fun, for you found the lightning in the bottle that was perfect for you, and some of your kids that you're coaching, same thing. But every now and then you're just gonna have that problem client. It's like pulling teeth to get them to show up for your sessions. So you got to find a way to make them enjoy it. That's why we throw so many like specializations into our resume, because it allows us to know more, have more tools to work with people. Speaking of tools of working with people, one of the other big things that we need to do, aside from just recognizing where our client is at, which is very good for the awareness that I talked about earlier, right? We also have to be able to set goals. So goal setting is a super powerful tool. No trainer on the planet is every trainer on the planet is talking about goals all the time. So goals are huge for us, right? Now, there are good goals and bad goals. And when I say like bad goals, I don't mean that like it's like I have the goal of world domination. That's what I mean. What I mean is like this is a goal that's not really serving you or helping you very much, right? So first, let's go ahead and identify types of nutrition goals, and then we can talk a little bit about like SMART goals, which SMART is an acronym, but also good, SMART is good. So outcome-oriented goals, first one we're gonna look at. This is usual, I would say this is like 90% of the time when somebody like gives you like a very first initial goal, it's probably gonna be an outcome-oriented goal. So outcome-oriented goals are goals where the end result is achieved by like a specific outcome, maybe changing their dietary habits. Like I want to lose 10 pounds. That's an outcome goal. I like outcome goals. I think they're great, but we want to have a blend of different types of goals so we can reach to the different parts of our brains and different parts of our motivation, right? Like you look at like the financial literacy stuff that I talked about earlier. Yeah, I'm totally motivated by the fact that like, I just don't want to have to see those late fees. I don't want all the calls from collection agencies like I used to get when I was in my 20s. Like, I don't want, yeah, that is going to motivate me a little bit, Has anybody seen the movie Office Space? Do you guys know that movie?
Oh, it's an amazing movie. It's one of my favorites.
I love it. But that movie there's one line in particular that is so brilliant where he's talking to the two Bobs, and he's like, Bob, I can't remember how many he actually says, but he's like, I got four bosses. So every time I make a small mistake, I have to hear about it 4 times. And that'll motivate somebody for a little while, but it'll only motivate you enough you'll do just enough work to not get hassled. That's my only true motivation. Like, and it's like, that part of that movie, I freaking love that part of that movie. Because it's true. Like, if you're only motivated externally to get somebody off your back, that's not true motivation, right? So we got to have some other goals out there, right? If the goal is to lose 10 pounds, right? Why don't we have the goal be to feel better, right? Why don't we have a goal be, to become an expert on something and have that self-gratification, right? So having a blend of different types of goals is super, super effective. So I like I want to lose 10 pounds. I think that it is a very good goal. But if we can include some what we call process-oriented goals as well, these are goals where the end result is getting better at processes. human beings, we love being good at stuff. We love feeling like we're an expert, right? We love like this process of like, getting up the hill, getting up the mountain, right? Even if you hate hiking, you get to the top of the hill and you're like, oh, this is so dumb. That burned, my legs burned so much. This is a really pretty view. I did it. I'm awesome. Like that. It's we all have that, right? So process-oriented goals are the types of goals that kind of lead to that feeling, right? That feeling of gratification, that feeling of success. So the goal here is getting better at a process, right? So rather than just saying I want to lose 10 pounds, if we say something like, I want to include more fruits and vegetables in my diet, right? I want to get a little bit better at the process. That can be very self-gratifying where you're like, I do a really good job of like stacking my fridge. And like, yeah, you know what? Tonight it's my anniversary. I'm going out and I'm going to go get, a slice of like cake and have a really nice night on the town with my significant other. And I'm able to do that because of like, I've been so good at the rest of this process lately. And so you have this like self-gratification and it only keeps you on that path. You feel like you're an expert, you feel good about things. We like being experts, right? So oftentimes what's really great about this as well is that it will often feed into your outcome goals. Well, guess what? Including more fruits and vegetables in your diet, you know what that's going to do for you? It's going to help you lose 10 pounds. So now, again, we're reaching into different parts of our psyche. We're reaching into different parts of our habits and everything. And we're pinging off of all of it, right? Ways to provide like nutrition education, right? We're starting to see two major tools that we've got access to here, right? We have got access to goal setting from the coaching aspects and understanding where our client is in the stages of change. Now, I find the stages of change model super, super helpful once I understand what actually moves me through the stages of change. That is something we're going to talk about more next module. It's not super detailed in this module, which is kind of a bummer when we actually talk about it. But like, we have different tools that are going to work in different scenarios, right? Just like, screwdriver's not going to help you get a nail into the wall. So we got different ways to provide this nutrition education that we're talking about here, right? So clarifying different misconceptions, right, can be a big part of this, right? A lot of times people are going to have poor information. And so if we can help them sort of delete that poor information. Sample meal plans are a really great example of good information, right? Coming up with example meal plans are definitely something we can do. We just need to remember, guys, they are example meal plans. And like, you can create a custom one with the client, right? Alexis and I can sit down and be like, hey, list out some of your favorite fruits, some of your favorite vegetables, some of your favorite whole grain sources, right? And then I like work with that and we come up with like, do you think you could stick to if I did this, 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 and this as a meal? And you're like, yeah, I could eat that, right? Great, cool. We'll put it on the meal plan, right? We can do stuff like that. That's totally fine, as long as we're working with the client. What I can't do, again, is say, this is the meal plan, this is the Brad Thompson plan, and I want you to follow this every single day. That's a prescription, right? And that's not what we're allowed to do. But if I said like, this is the Brad Thompson meal plan, it's really good. You want to follow something like this would probably work for you, right? Again, I'm phrasing it as I'm leaving the decision up to them. I didn't tell them what to do, I guided them there. And then always, always, always summarize your consultations. This is actually really huge. So a lot of times, every session, you want to end with summarizing the session, right? Sort of tie it all up in a neat little bow and say, this is what we talked about today. This is what we want to work on next time. And give them their goals to work on before you see them again. Coaching is a lot more hands-off than personal training sessions are. There's kind of a difference between like being a coach and being like a trainer. Like your client shows up every single day, they got a lot of hand holding, but if they're only showing up once or twice, once a week or once every other week, right? That means that like you need to make sure that that structure is on place and there has to be something that's going to reinforce them the whole time until they show up for the next session. So giving them the opportunity to not only discuss like what it is that they want to work on, but also like goals for them to work on until next time. You can set that all up during the summary of your session. So it's like, all right, so we talked a little bit about like sugar today and how we want to decrease our sugar intake, right? So our goals for next time, I want you to come up with a list of low sugar foods that you actually enjoy, and maybe think of like a couple strategies that would apply to you directly for reducing your overall sugar intake. Meanwhile, I'm going to start working on, coming up with some example meal plans that are a little bit higher in whole grains and lower in sugar and things like that. When we meet up on next week, we're going to see this. So our goals were all very much just education based for the first time, right? And then once we've sort of got all that, maybe the next time, like, all right, our goals this week, I want you to, we talked about how we're going to get rid of some of that like white bread, get rid of some of that like minute white rice and swap it out for brown rice. Your goal this week, go check out the pantry and see if you can kind of clean that up a little bit. And we'll talk about like what you did. And so then it's like, what was your shopping list like this week? And they're like, well, this is right. So summarize your session. Oftentimes ends with like, this is what we talked about today. This is what I want you to do next time, right? So review their goals, and offer a list of objectives, right? Oh, and I almost forgot the most important thing you need to do. Make your follow-up appointment. Don't forget to do that. Every session ends by booking the next session. It's not, all right, and I'll call you and we'll set up, we're going to see you in about 2 weeks. I'll call you and set up the day. No. Put it on the freaking books. If they need to cancel, great. That means they have to call you to cancel, right? Or they have to call you to reschedule, which means they're sticking to the plan. Chasing them down doesn't help them, right? Put it on the books. So if you want to get a follow-up consultation, you need to make sure that you are able to, sell yourself effectively. So you need to build rapport with the client, just like we would any other regular sales process. Discuss all the information, assess how they're sort of like feeling, right? What their energy levels are like if this diet is sort of like working for them, that when they show up the next week, we got to discuss like, all right, what worked this week, what didn't. It's like we said we were going to reduce our sugar intake and go for like some more whole grain options. It's like, oh yeah, I tried that bread that you mentioned. It was terrible and I hate it. It's like, great, okay, so we want to keep white bread in our diet. We can still find a way to keep that in there. We need to get our fiber from somewhere else then, so then we make adjustments elsewhere, right? And we increase our starchy vegetables instead, keep the skin on our potatoes, right? Cool. I can't get my mom to keep the skin on her potatoes. She hates it. So I had to compromise and get her to switch to whole grain bread. There's just no way, like my mom absolutely, I was like, Mom, keep the skin on. That's where all the fiber's at. And she's like, I will get fiber from somewhere else, even if it's taking like Metamucil. All right, I guess. Yeah, if that's what you want to do. I think that's crazy, but okay, but that's her thing. She likes her potatoes a specific way. During your follow-up consultation, make sure that you do reevaluate their weight, their body composition, check to see if any of the numbers have changed and if you're going in the direction that we want to go. Revisit our long-term goals, revisit our short-term goals, see like, hey, are we on the path for success or maybe not? And then set up that next appointment, again, book them for the next one. Now, that is the general coaching process. That's the general coaching sessions. That's how it's going to kind of break down. There are some special types of sessions that you're going to run into out there. Like sometimes you guys can do group nutrition sessions. I used to do this for my boot camps. I would do like little nutrition workshops every now and then where like I would bring in like and show people kind of like that video I showed you guys with the example of 200 calories. I would bring in like a bunch of 200 calorie examples and do like a quiz and ask people how many calories they thought were in certain foods and stuff, and that would help educate them. You can do health and wellness fairs. Every now and then you might end up like If you're working at like a gym, for instance, a lot of times they'll get like a table at a fair, or like a 5K race. That's a really popular place. Trainers will often like post up. So you might end up doing sessions there. Sports competitions, kind of the same thing. Conferences, kind of the same thing. So you might end up in like little sessions like that. If you do, you're probably only going to have 15 to 20 minutes per person as you're trying to sell them and you know, get your info out there. If that's the case, you're probably going to do a 24-hour dietary recall because it's very quick. It's very easy. I love a good food frequency questionnaire, but they tend to be a little bit longer, a little bit more detailed. So you're probably just going to do the 24-hour dietary recall. And then you can sort of break that down for them and say, all right, here's what we see. You can determine a very simple exercise routine for them, probably utilizing those FIT principles that we talked about, right? We can look at the type, the duration, the intensity of exercise. And say like, okay, well, you know, what would probably work for you? I mean, if you wanted to meet with me a couple times a week, you know, only twice a week, but then you exercise like 4 times a week, plus like sort of like an active recovery session, you know, that's getting you physically active this many minutes per week. We can keep the intensity relatively low, blah, 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 right? Like, everybody's gonna be different. Some people are gonna be like, nope, I don't have that much time. And it's like, great, okay, you don't have a lot of time, high intensity exercise with me twice a week, you know? Okay, cool. Then we don't have to do any homework. And then try to review that information with them as, you know, at the end. Again, you go through the same process, whether it's an hour-long session or a 20-minute session, or even 10 minutes. You want to summarize everything up at the end, right? And then assess those changes as they go. So a lot of times in a short session, you're not going to have time to break down a lot of goals. You're probably only going to get maybe one major goal for them to work on. Maybe to develop a nutrition plan that like actually addresses that goal, or an activity program that addresses that goal. Now, I don't know why they throw this in here at the end. This is just kind of a weird little bit at the very end, but legal stuff, law stuff, just remember there is the HIPAA. If you are working with your client nutritionally, make sure that you are not revealing their information to your other clients. That's very important to make sure that, like, you know, the Data Security Act of 1996 is basically what this is. You know, it's just making sure that like you're like if I'm training Eric and I'm like talking to Carlos, you know, I'm like, oh yeah, and then Eric, I've got him on a diet where he's doing this kind of thing because like what he struggles with, and I'm just like revealing Eric's whole life story. That's super in violation of HIPAA, so don't do that. Keep your information like confidential. And that's really about it. I don't know why we talk about that. It never comes up. Nobody's gonna violate HIPAA. You know, you shouldn't be discussing your one client with the other. You know, I'll do it every now and then. Like obviously I brought up like Alex today, you know, an ex-student of mine, but like, you know, I don't know what he does in his personal life. I'm not giving you information about him that is not readily available online, you know. So healthy behaviors obviously can be gained through nutrition consultation. That is where like sometimes you're going to sell nutrition sessions where rather than an hour on the gym floor, you spend that hour at a desk talking to your client and formulating a meal plan and formulating like some new habits and things like that. Oftentimes you're going to start by gathering that data either through a 24-hour dietary recall, or maybe it's the second session where, you know, you're revisiting the data. Their goal was to do a food log, right? And so you're breaking down that food log, or a food frequency questionnaire. You definitely, during your initial assessments, you always want to be looking at like how your client is holding up, and figure out where they are in the stages of change. If they find that, you know, you're trying to make these big changes and they keep relapsing over and over and over and over and over again, or they keep lapsing over and over again, that's a sign of a relapse. They're moving backwards in the stages, right? So we're probably not matching the right tool with the right stage of change. You know, a lot of times the early stages are focused on education and the later stages are focused on action. So we have, you know, we have different goals for different clients. If I got a client that I've been working with for 6 months, my goals are probably going to be, you know, specific shopping lists and things like that. If my client and I have only been working together for like a week, I'm probably going to have them focus more on like learning and doing research and you know, understanding what's going to work for them. And that's about it. I would say ladies and gents, but we lost our lady. That's it, guys. Any questions before I let you out of here today? Are you feeling pretty good?
I'm trying to
Doing
form
pretty good.
What was that, Daryl?